fam. How is everybody doing? I hope you enjoyed your holiday. I hope you had a wonderful time. I hope you did it safely. I hope you did it without, risking yourself or risking the people around you. But that's important. Fam, and please, 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 do not forget to hit that like button now that you are in here. Please do not forget also that we have a book club coming up. So please, 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 please do not. We had it for December. It's not until January now. But please get the book. If you haven't gotten the book, if you read it already, please go and reread some sections and do all of that good stuff, because we're going to get into it in January. Now, please make sure if you are already in here, please make sure to hit that like button for me. Please make sure to hit that bell to get notifications. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. This is a community here, a political building community that's built on political education and advocacy for ADOS in terms of reparations and transformative black politics and a transformative black agenda. And that's at ADOS101.com if you are new. So please, please, please do that. If you want to donate, you can go to donatebrown.com. Patreon.com/WaCarnell or $breakingbrown for the Cash App. You can do all of those things. And we're going to get right to it, family, because we have to talk about what everybody's been talking about. I've had a lot of conversations over the past few days about Yvette, what happened. Now we went out there. We know you told us not to do it, but we went out there and we done voted for Biden. And now we see something happening. Something is strange in the White House. So what do you mean something is strange? Well, you see, there's not an exchange. See, we talk about politics is an exchange. It's not a gift. I don't know you. I don't love you as a politician. You are there to present me with policies. And if I like and if I approve, I vote for you, and I expect you to, at minimum, work on behalf of that agenda. That is my expectation. Now, when you look on here, you see Biden and his all-female communications team. But let's bring up something a little bit bigger. Let's just go all the way back when we talk about exchange. Let's bring up something. You see in terms of voted for Biden. You see how you see the share of white women. You see how much larger the share of black men is. Then you go, we already know the share of black women down at the bottom. Now, I have not seen anyone other than Cedric Johnson, who operates in, I think it's Louisiana, with all the chemical plants, and he's kind of on board with that. And the people are having cancer and the ADOS down there, cancer and stuff, and he's fine, right? That's all we see. And so when we celebrate these women, you have to ask yourself one thing. Are Democrats chasing? Are they chasing voters that they don't have, that aren't voting for them as much as we are voting for them? Or are they paying back those of us who did come through? Now, I didn't come through with Biden because I believe we had a down ballot. That was our thing. We're going to do Democratic down ballot because our belief was, and we see it happening now. The belief was that these people are not going to, unless they have some kind of fear in their hearts for us, and unless they fear us as a group and they know that we'll go away or at least not vote for them, they're not going to do anything. So we said vote down ballot. Everybody said no, we got to get Trump out of there. And this is what it looks like when your whole agenda is just to get Trump out of there. Now, we also have something else going on. There's a little switcheroo. Do you all remember? How many of you all remember that, Simone Sanders was working for Biden? Now, you working for the big guy. You working for the man who is president. You've already kind of made your political chops. Our disagreements aside, you worked on Bernie's campaign. You worked on Biden's campaign. Now's the time for Biden to build you as a White House person, right? As a person who works in White House communication. Now is the time, Simone. Now is the time for you to be, I wouldn't say press secretary, but deputy press secretary, right? so that you can learn and you can get that White House experience, not vice president experience, because we all know the joke that goes for vice presidents is that they go to funerals. I don't care what you say. That's a joke about all of them, whether they all want to run for president and they all go run. That's not, the joke is still that they go to funerals because they don't really have that power, right? But so here you go, and let me just say what you said. You said ready to serve accurately describes how I feel. Thank you, Madam Vice President. Wait a minute, you was working for the honcho now. Wait a minute. Now how we get down to the VP? How did we get demoted? Simone Sanders fought all of us. She fought hard for this man. And now, you know, how do you get demoted? Thank you, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, for entrusting me with this charge. It has been the honor of my life to work for Joe Biden. I am elated to have the opportunity to continue that work in the People's House. Well, wait a minute. I saw you. Let me just say this. I saw Simone Sanders tackle somebody for Joe Biden. Now, if you tackle somebody for somebody, if you put your body in the way of something for somebody, you should get what you get. You earn that. You earn that with physicality. Now, there was the strangest thing though, there was another woman, if we remember correct, who did the same thing for Kamala, right? Isn't that Karine Jean-Pierre? She did that, but she's going to the White House. There's a switcheroo. So she's going to be deputy press secretary, and you, Simone, are going to work for the VP, right? And you just got started. Like, understand that when we talk about Jean-Pierre, she just came on board not too long ago. I don't know if you all remember that she wasn't always there. Simone's been there the long haul. You just got here, honey. But could it be because you tick a lot of boxes, right? So yeah, you know, I don't know everybody's thing, but her, you know, people talk about, you know, black and lesbian, but also immigrant. You tick a box. And people always say, understand something, fam. If you don't understand anything else I say right here, understand something. Politics, I think Elizabeth Warren was the first one to say it. But I say it now because it's true. And you can go back to Reconstruction to understand this. Politics is personnel. Politics is personnel. Who you appoint matters. Who we can get in there and talk to, that absolutely matters. Now, when you look at Jean-Pierre here, she didn't tackle, she kind of jumped in the way, but like, that's who you get to be with though. You get to be with Kamala. You're supposed to go to the vice presidency, and Simone is supposed to be in the White House. How did we allow this switcheroo to happen? Does nobody see how late she came on board? And where she is now and how she's being elevated? Are we not seeing that? See, what we don't see is a problem. And so we have to talk about what's happening, because there are a lot of moving parts going on. It's not just the white women. And we have to talk about how are we going to have some kind of, what I've been talking about lately is don't talk to me about accountability if you don't have any kind of accountability mechanisms. You can't just say we're going to hold them accountable, because too long for black people, especially ADOS, us saying we're going to hold somebody accountable means we're going to talk real loud. But we're going to holler and scream and tell them we don't like it. And we're going to tell them they got to do better. Every 4 years. Where have you shown that actually works? I have never seen that work. But let's just go on to a few other things. We have to talk about it. We have to talk about, you know, there's a whole hustle going on. And it looks like to me that Kamala is getting Jean-Pierre ready for Kamala's run for the White House. Don't look like you getting Simone ready for anything, but you put her, you got Jean-Pierre in the White House because you want to run and you setting her up. Ain't Simone, I don't know whether you know it or not, but ain't nobody setting you up for nothing but a fall. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to push you out and make your life so miserable in there that you're gonna go for the fall. But I'm not gonna talk about her demotion very much. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on these symbolic offices. What I will say is that we have a problem, family. And listen, you can't fix a problem until you diagnose the problem. Now, what we do all the time is that we fail to acknowledge that a problem exists. Now, let's just go to this article, this Washington Post article really quick and just pick up a few comments. If you don't mind, if you do not mind, I'd like to. Biden is expected to nominate Neera Tanden. And that's who I want to talk to y'all about. Let's talk about something that y'all ain't talked about. The chief executive of the left-leaning Center for American Progress as director of the influential Office of Management and Budget. According to people familiar with the matter, who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the nominations freely, Tanden, whose parents immigrated from India, would be the first woman of color to oversee the agency. Now, I think we have to talk a little bit about this woman who has just become a troll of the left. She's just a troll. And I think she was first with Hillary Clinton. She is a careerist, neoliberal, right of center, people of color person. And I don't think we should have any expectations of getting anything from her because of who she is and what she represents. You also have on there, I want to concentrate on her, but you also have on there Jennifer Psaki, a veteran Democratic spokesperson, will be Biden's White House press secretary, one of 7 women who will fill the upper ranks of his administration's communications staff. It is the first time all of the top aides tasked with speaking on behalf of an administration and shaping its message will be female. Well, that's fine, but I want to know who shapes the policies and politics as well. Right? Right? Because these people are building up a whole machine that's going to outlive Biden. Come on. You got to understand what they're doing. They're building a women, people of color machine for after Biden. Biden's old. And that's going to be what Jean-Pierre and these white women represent. That's the new coalition. ADOS, boxed out. That's finished. So let me just read something else to you really, really quickly. Talks about diversity, but I'm not even going to bring that up because that's not even the issue. We got to talk about something else, though, before we even get to Neera. We're going to get to her. But that's the meat of the conversation. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the mayor, who not only you remember Laquan McDonald gunned down in the middle of the street. How many bullets, how many gunshots was that got covered up and all that stuff? That was Rahm Emanuel. Now they're doing Rahm Emanuel floated for transportation secretary. Let me tell you what's happening here when they say somebody is floated. What that means is that they're throwing out a weather balloon. Let's see how people feel. Let's see if they're going to be really opposed to it. That means that's what Biden wants, but he's trying to see how people feel. If they're going to be really opposed to it or whatever, then he might not do it. Let's see what they say. Understand a few things when you talk about transportation. You're talking about, we got to understand, we got to stop thinking about politics of just the emotion of the thing. And we have to start talking about politics and thinking about it in terms of resources and in terms of budgets. Oh, so this is a good little article from Axios, well, a little bullet point breakdown. The DOT could effectively become the new Commerce Department as infrastructure spending, smart cities construction, and the rollout of drone delivery programs take on increasing economic weight. You're talking about 20 to 25% of the economy, former Secretary Ray LaHood told me. The big picture, Final decisions on transportation and housing and urban development will happen after the president-elect announces his picks for defense and justice, and cabinet decisions are all interconnected. Everyone's on hold until they see what the administration is going to do about Rome. And that's LaHood who said that, right? Mayors appear to dominate the DOT contenders. In addition to Emmanuel, sources tell Axios that contenders include LA's Eric Garcetti, Keisha Lance Bottoms of Atlanta, and former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg, though each of them could land elsewhere in the administration. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has zeroed in on Rahm Emanuel as a pretty divisive pick. Good for her. Emanuel was mayor of Chicago during the police killing of 17-year-old Laquan McDonald. The police initially called it a justifiable homicide, and the city delayed the release of dash cam footage for over a year. After the footage went public, one officer was convicted of second-degree murder. That's your boy Rahm. That's who Obama chose to be his chief of staff. That's who he elevated. Rahm Emanuel's housing, this is from 2015, Rahm Emanuel's housing agency sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars with massive wait list. That's Rahm Emanuel. Now I want to talk to you about what you believe and what we believe we're getting in exchange for a vote. Understand, this is why you have to make these people fear you. Understand, if they are not scared of you, if they are not scared of what you are going to do when you walk into that voting booth, this is what they will do. They will put somebody in power or float the idea of putting somebody in power who murdered a 17-year-old and covered it up for a year. That's who Rahm is. He ain't no better than that, and he ain't gonna never be no better than that. And your first black president chose him as chief of staff. That's the first problem. This centrist center-right, because your first black president was insecure and who he was and he should have been. Obama has every right to be insecure about every part of himself because he doesn't have any core beliefs. He's a man not anchored in anything or anyone. You should be insecure, which means you shouldn't have run for anything. You are a functionary. You are not a leader, and you never should have put yourself in that place. And listen, I come to you as somebody who voted for Obama the first time. It was a stupid mistake. We all made it. We see what he did. Talk about it because we ran out of time. Look at the powers that be messing up the interwebs. Ain't that something? Just mess up the interwebs. Let me know if y'all can give me a amen in the chat if y'all can hear me now, because the internet all of a sudden out of nowhere just going in and out and in and out and in and out. Ain't that something? All of a sudden we can't have a conversation. Every time you get real controversial on here, you want to go in and out and in and out. In and out and in and out. Give me an amen, family. If y'all, thank you, amen. I appreciate y'all. Y'all are, thank you. Let's get back to it. Let's get back to kicking butt and taking names. Okay, so we're talking about Rahm. We're talking about Rahm. You have to understand also, listen, we don't have, because of redlining and because of where our homes are, and we've talked about it. We've had this whole conversation. Part of the problem too, and let me just bring this up. Let me just bring this up too, because part of the problem that happens when you talk about Obama, people can't listen. But part of what happened during the Obama administration is that we had a little bit of wealth. We had a little bit of wealth, not a lot, but we had a little bit of wealth in our homes. Now that wealth wasn't good. Right? That wealth wasn't good because, and we didn't have as much, because what wealth you have in your home depends on your zip code. If you're in a black zip code, you're going to have a little bit of a problem, right? Just because of who we are. So that is already an issue. That is already a problem. What he did, what Rahm Emanuel encouraged Obama to do, was sign on to policies that eviscerated what wealth we had in our homes. We got foreclosed on. We got put out. We got Tim Geithner. Let me just read this to you really quick, and then we'll go to something else real quick. Because the discussion was to have a robust plan to help people in their homes to stay in their homes. Part of how that got rejected was Rahm Emanuel. This heartless person who is just a politician that they're trying to shove down our throats again. Let's read this. Yet the all-important decision of size of the stimulus passes in a couple of sentences. He's talking about Obama's memoir. You know, Obama's the narcissist that we just can't get rid of. You know, I don't know what you want to call Obama, the sticky booger, whatever you want to call him. You just can't get rid of him. He won't go away. He got 3 memoirs, and this is part 1. He gonna give you 4 more because that's how he feels about himself. He's a self-important person. But let me go on. When economic advisor Christina Roma mentioned in an early meeting that it should probably, talking about what the bailout should be over $1 trillion. White House Chief of Staff Rahm Emanuel, who Obama personally coaxed into taking the job, instantly snapped that it was impossible. There's no effing way, Emanuel said, claiming that the public and conservative Democrats would not countenance such a large number. The most they would be able to get was 7, maybe 800 billion tops. And that's a stretch. Joe Biden, that's your president. Joe Biden nodded, and apparently that was the end of the conversation. Understand, we need way more than what's here. We need way more that's here. On any grounds one might care to choose, this was a brain-meltingly bad political decision. Here we have the single most important determinant of the future success of Obama and his party, the strength of the economy, and they didn't even try to make the stimulus as big as the hole it was supposed to fill, much less include a margin of error in case the data was underestimating the size of the collapse. It was by a lot. Instead, 2 guys made gut check guesses about what could be got through Congress, and that was that. Advisor David Axelrod even gloomily predicted afterwards that they would get rinsed in the upcoming midterms. And that's exactly what happened. And this is who Biden is kind of putting a feeler out on who he might want to bring back. Understand, when we say they got washed, I don't think we really understand, you know, what happened to us in that recession. Because part of the problem with us is that we don't talk with specificity. We talk about, well, it happened to everybody. No, we got kicked out of our homes, and we now got bad credit and can't get a home because we suffered through something that was not our fault, was not our responsibility. And your first black president, he put this man in power and allowed it to happen because he's weak. We got to stop with this weak leadership. I don't need no more weak people. If you can't fight, get out the ring. You can sit on the sidelines and eat popcorn, but don't get in the ring. You have to understand it. I want you to look at this. MARTA to launch Uber partnership on election day. What they got to do with Iran? With Rahm? What you have is Rahm is trying to do transportation. Obama ushered in the gig economy, right? Where we act as servants to rich people for a little bit of money and liquidate our vehicles for that. That's what we did. So we're moving from buses and transportation to gigs, and that's what Rom is going to oversee. Understand that Kamala Harris's sister, her brother-in-law, is what is he? He's an attorney for what is it, Uber? Understand that ushering us in to be servants. We're never going to be a part of an ownership class like this. This is what's happening. You got to understand that. You have to understand that. You have to understand what these people are up to. They gonna make that. We remember what Biden said. They're gonna put all y'all back in chains. You don't have to. You can put us back in chains without actually having chains. You can make us servants without actually having slavery. Coronavirus care package was $2 trillion. Y'all gonna tell us we couldn't even do that? Obama was a mistake. And the people that he picked were mistakes. These centrist, neoliberal, New Dealers, they were mistakes for us. I'm not talking about him. I know he's a careerist. Right? That's fine if you don't know it. It's all right. We're going to talk about one other person who's also a careerist, who doesn't have what you have, who doesn't want what you want, and who uses us, who uses ADOS, and who uses black voters. So you see Neera Tanden is going. She's OMB, Office of Management and Budget. How? And she's talking to somebody. Let me bring this up because she's talking to this person who says, maybe we might not want Biden. And instead of really answering the question, she does this slick, the person says, Hassan says, look, if Sanders is not the candidate, he isn't the candidate, fine. But it has to be but if it has to be a centrist, this was in March. If it has to be a centrist, why this centrist? Why Biden? Why not literally anyone else except Bloomberg? Buttigieg, Harris, Booker, etc. I don't get it. I just don't get it. There were so many better centrist options. Instead of answering that question, she uses black voters. Understand, we are her tool to bludgeon this man. By what right? You should really talk to some black voters. They voted in mass for Biden in South Carolina and changed the race. These panic tweets are just becoming sad. No, you're just stupid. This is you're using us. Like, you have to understand office, and I'm going to talk to you about how important this office is they're proposing for her. And she's using us as cover. By what right? Who are you, Neera, to use us for cover? You should have answered the man. If you got brains enough to answer him, answer him. But don't use us. And don't use boomers either. Because that's South Carolina. It's not representative of all the black people or all the ADOS people across America. You're using us. I can see it. So I know what's coming when you get to OMB. Well, Yvette, what is going to look like when she get to OMB? Is that going to be a problem? It absolutely is going to be a problem. Because this woman's kind of anti-blackness we've seen it before. Does everybody remember when she went at Nina Turner? Thanks, Nina Turner, for reminding people that you voted for Jill Stein in 2016. You and Susan Sarandon both. You didn't vote for who could beat Trump. And Nina Turner came back at her. You don't know what the hell I voted for. Don't bring it here, Neera Tanden. You don't want to do this dance. It's because of mean, hateful neoliberals like you that we have Trump in the White House. Own your SHIT. Go ahead, Nina. Don't ever come for me. I only had one mama and she's dead. You doggone right. That's who this woman is, though. She is nasty and she is anti-ADOS. She is anti everything we stand for. And she will beat us up. And you're putting her, Joe Biden, wherever you at. You are putting her at the head of something. Let me just bring up Office of Management and Budgets. Let's just talk about that for a second. Let's just talk about that for a second. I think we have to, one of the things that we have to do when people talk about what's the solution, we have to understand what these offices do and what they're kind of in charge of, and the power that they have. We have to understand who the people are too, but we have to understand who these people are. So Office of Management and Budget. Let me just bring up one thing that you might not know. Now, we have talked a lot, have we not? We have talked a lot about having ADOS as a designation because we bear a very specific cost that comes all the way from slavery. I can draw a line. Slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, red line, and mass incarceration right here on this table. I can draw a line. Now, when you talk about that, we have said, well, because other groups are saying it too. Latinos have said it because Latino ain't a group. They done made some stuff up. Jewish Americans are saying, hey, there's no one Jewish American. There's not one Jewish way to do things. We're different. We said the same thing. We are ADOS. Period. Point blank. And you don't have any right to tell us who we are. We are a self-determined people. We don't know who you think you're talking to. You got something to say? So we did that, and so I want you to read this. We have said we need our own designation because of what we've gone through. Now, how do we decide designations? Well, let's go to the census. The U.S. Census Bureau must adhere to the 1997 Office of Management and Budget standards on race and ethnicity. You want Neera Tanden in charge of race and that's So here we go. Which guide the Census Bureau in classifying written responses to the questions. So here are you have white, you have black or African American, you have American Indian, right? Asian. Those are the standards, folks. And that's who is set by, folks. And if y'all want her to get on here, because you all know, as well as I know, that she's going to be on some people of color stuff. Understand that she's on some people of color stuff. Because Hillary Clinton's person or whatever, she's going to say, I'm people of color. My parents immigrated from India or whatever. She's not going to give us the specificity that we need. There's no division in that. That is what it is. You were not here when our people were slaves. You were not here during Reconstruction. Your people were not here when we were beaten in the streets. We have a specificity, and you being an OMB means I don't get it. I already know if Trump's people don't do it, they ain't gonna do it. I know that. That's them. But we voted for you. I don't want you in there. I don't want you anywhere near power. You don't deserve it. You haven't earned it. And you don't believe in anything except accelerating your race to the top. That's what you're doing. And I don't think we really understand what these organizations do. So let's talk about who is the director of OMB. Let's talk about some of the stuff that goes into it, right? So there's a lot of stuff that you can really do. So the OMB director on defunding critical race theory. You can do a lot of stuff. I love, some of the things when you talk about politics, some of the best things that happen, or some of the stuff that can really make stuff happen, is when you in these little spaces that don't nobody know about, and nobody really talks about OMB or what OMB can do. OMB can really run the gamut. Washington Post, White House Budget Office moving to reclassify key roles under Trump executive order. Now, how do they reclassify that? What does OMB do? I'm confused. Well, here you go. Following an executive order President Donald Trump signed last month, the Office of Management and Budget is moving to reclassify 88% of its workers into a new job classification that would give the federal government more flexibility to fire employees without going through a lengthy process. Now, I bring that up. I only bring that up to make a point. This office is a powerful office. Just because you don't hear it all the time doesn't mean that it's not powerful. I was kind of shocked when I heard her name associated with that. I was like, did they say OMB? Or they say ABC? Like, did Office of Management, did they say that? I mean, we have accused Trump, and rightly so, of appointing people to those kinds of offices who are not prepared or not ready to do that. And he absolutely has done that. But this is happening again. You want her there? Understand that budgets is everything. Fam, if you don't understand anything I'm saying, understand that where resources go, the area where resources are poured into, that's the ball game. That's the ball game. You don't believe it? Here you go. Last week, Vaught, who has championed the Trump administration's deregulatory push, defended the Trump administration's proposed $25 million budget cuts to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's public health preparedness, right? And response programs. The budget also calls for an additional $39 million slash from the CDC's global health programs. That's budgets. Budgets are the ball game. Now, we want outlays and allotments too, because we're ADOS, and a debt is a debt. It's not some kind of theoretical thing. A debt is a debt. Our debt, what is owed is what is owed. That's not theoretical. That's not something that we got to talk about. If you owe the bill, you got to pay the bill, right? But you have to understand what is possible. You got to understand what is possible, and we have to have an agenda. And we have to stand by it. I don't care what happens. Somebody said to me, well, I I would rather hear, I don't want to hear a lot about, just not voting for Biden to make a point. I don't want to not just vote for Biden. It's not about making a point. It's a consequence. Listen, when you go outside, if you go on top of a hill and you step off, your butt gonna fall down. That's not anything but gravity. I ain't invented. That's just here. Down ballot was down ballot because it's a consequence. It's just a natural reality of you not presenting to us and advocating for us with the politics that we believe in, especially given Biden's history with the 1994 crime bill and his cozying up to segregationists. That's just what it is. I think we have to get to a point where we understand as ADOS, we don't owe nobody nothing. Everybody who's here owes us. You owe us because we built the country with free labor and you never paid us. You owe us. We don't owe you a damn thing. So once you wrap your head around the fact that we don't owe you nothing, and as ADOS, we don't owe nobody else nothing, we owe ourselves a kind of advocacy that matters. Once you get there, then you can get here. And then you can understand Donald Trump's toolkit. I'm still shocked. OMB? Her? She's a troll. Awful neoliberal troll that can do a lot of damage to us specifically, especially since we can't get, especially with her at the helm, we'll never get our designation. So we spend the next 4, if not 8, 12 years trying to get designated because she, who came here well after us, is telling us no. By what right do you have to tell us anything? By what right do you even have to challenge Nina Turner? Who do you think you are to challenge her? You haven't been through what she's been through. You haven't lived the life she lived. It's all disrespectful. But let me tell you something about disrespect. If you don't have a consequence set up for disrespect, they'll keep doing it. They have to feel it. They have to fear us. Let me go to this real quick, this quote from this article. When Congress refused to appropriate adequate funds for Trump's border wall, OMB found it. When the government shut down in 2018, 2019, the OMB found ways for the Internal Revenue Service to send out tax refunds and for the Department of Agriculture to provide food stamps. The OMB's job is to understand the mechanics of the federal government operations and explain to the president and his staff how to get things done. Pay attention to that, family. How to get things done. Its titular head is Mick Mulvaney. This was a while ago before he left to become chief of staff and all that stuff. This was previous. Who is also the president's chief of staff, but somebody else came in. Remember, The guy I just showed you. So let's go on. But Vaught, a former Hill staffer and vice president, that's a new person, of the former Hill staffer and vice president of Heritage Foundation, a conservative policy advocacy group, has operational control. Operational control is very important. Sometimes you rather have operational control than actual political control. As the B in the office's name suggests, one of OMB's chief duties is to write the president's annual budget in consultation with agencies across the federal government, because Congress, not the executive, it's good to know who has roles. I'm just going to say that. It's good to know what role everybody has. Because Congress, not the executive, appropriates funds, the president's budget is an expression of wishes, not an allocation of funds, right? We know that. To translate the president's policy priorities into budgetary terms, the OMB's resource management offices, organized by broad oversight areas, weigh competing interests from different parts of government. For the Trump administration, that meant proposing a 27% cut in the funding of the Environmental Protection Agency and a 21% cut in the State Department this year. There's power in having those purse strings. Understand that. If you're going to do the data and you're going to do that, ooh, there's power in that. Another duty, as the M suggests in OMB, is managerial. Once a budget passes, or as has grown increasingly common, there is a continuing resolution that merely keeps current funding levels constant. The OMB advises and evaluates agency performance. The OMB also oversees a range of federal functions, including procurement, IT, personnel, financial management. Within the OMB sits the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, OIRA, reviews agencies' proposed regulatory changes, ensuring that benefits outweigh costs, and for new regulations, that agencies have fully considered non-regulatory alternatives to achieve their stated goals. Let's just understand what this means for a second. Let's just back up and try to figure out what this means for a second. But right before I come back, I think I have one more quote and then I'll be done. OIRA has been central to Mr. Trump's deregulatory effort. Just days after his inauguration, the president issued an executive order requiring 2 regulations to be repealed for every new one introduced. In October, his administration estimated that it had actually cut 8.5 regulations for every new one. Some take issue with how Mr. Trump's OIRA conducts cost-benefit analysis, but Trump don't care. That's all you got to say. You got to, but Trump don't care. Trump also tells agencies to end trainings on white privilege and critical race theories. That's also the OMB. That's also the OMB, people. What I'm trying to tell you, what I'm trying to tell everybody, you know, these jobs that you might not think are important are extremely important. And the stuff that she's going to control is going to be extremely important. Right? And so let's just go to this real quick. All agencies, this is a quote from the NPR article. All agencies are directed to begin to identify all contracts or other agency spending related to any training on critical race theories, white privilege, or any other training or propaganda effort that teaches or suggests that the United States is an inherently racist or evil country. It's absolutely racist. That's just the history of everything. But understand how you can rewrite history by having control of this agency. That any race or ethnicity is inherently racist or evil. Well, you might not be inherently racist. I don't know what you are inherently. That's not my job. But I can tell you by how you treated ADOS, you're racist. And this is an agency that also deals with what we talked about. Explanation of data standards for race, ethnicity. sex, primary language, and disability. See, I don't think we understand what this means for us. So it says when you go to OMB, it says HHS. This is the Health and Human Services, but understand OMB is coordinating and regulating. Understand that HHS examined current federal data, collective standards, adequate of prior testing and quality of that data produced in prior survey, consulted with statistical agencies and programs, and built on the Office of Management and Budget data collection standards. So you're telling me that you set the standards for that. The standards for the data, the standards for race, the standards for all of that. That's what we're looking at. That's power. That's power. I don't care how anybody wants to look at it. That is power, and that's what we are giving her. That's the power of that. Now before I go, let me say one other thing. That's where they're putting Neera Tanden at. Now, you know, she's going to be on some people of color power as opposed to anything that elevates us. We're just a tool. She's a careerist. But let me just say one thing that has become apparent. When people say, Yvette, what are we going to do? They already got elected. What are we going to do? You can't just get them unelected because you're disappointed with the decision that you made. That's not how any of this works. I've said it before. Now, I think we should be loud about our opposition to her, Rom, all of these people. But let me say something else. We're faced with a kind of acknowledgement, if you will. The only solution is the movement that we're currently building. ADOS is the only answer. Y'all done tried everything, done buttered every biscuit, put cheese and cheddar inside of it, and it ain't worked. Now you kind of full, but that sugar starch food don't last long, do it? Because it's not really the kind of nourishment you need, is it? Butter biscuit time is over. Butter biscuit time has to be over. If we are going to survive first before we thrive as a group, as a specific ADOS, butter biscuit time has got to be over. You want to slop it up with your spaghettis and all of that. It's got to be over. We can't do this if we have too many people who don't want to deal with and build mechanisms of accountability and who just want to get put on. Because you're not going to get put on because you don't have the wind at your back. You don't have ADOS behind you. So this is a pedestrian game you're playing. You're doing pedestrian politics. You are a child in a grown person's room when you behave like that. When you come into a room as Marcia Fudge and say, please, I kind of want to be agriculture. I really, really do. I've been very, very loyal. I have been a loyal person to y'all. So what, Marcia? Don't nobody care. Marcia, Marcia, whatever the heck the name. Fudge. Don't nobody care. They don't care about that. What they care about is does this person or do these people have an apparatus, institution, or a group in place that will hold me accountable if I don't put them in place? If you don't have that, if you don't have ADOS at your back, if they don't know that we coming because you are building yourself based on an agenda, not you as an individual, if they don't know that, then they're going to throw you away. Politics is the business of deciding who to throw away. And for too long, we just been the ones everybody has decided to throw away. Because we're not going to stand on nothing. We're not going to stand on no square. Few of us will run and chase butter biscuits like a football. Woo, woo, got it, touchdown, and that's it for you. We can't do that anymore. And so when we talk about rolling out HQ, and the chapter leaders are already in HQ, and we're doing that. When we talk about, and if you want to be a part, like if you want to be a part of the media team, the outreach team, the policy team, email me with the subject line editor@breakingbrown.com, because we have to build something to hold people accountable. This whole thing where we just go vote for them and then we talk about, well, shoot, I think I stepped on the banana peel. I think I sprayed my ankle. I don't know what I was going to do. That's got to be over with. Ain't nobody doing no much child's play. That's the games children play. I'm grown. How are you? We're not doing that no more. And you have to understand that this is the ball game. ADOS is the ball game. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again before I go to break. This is the civil rights movement of our generation. I don't care whether you like it. It is. You're going to have to get on board, and we can discuss what you think needs to be changed. But there's no other avenue. There's nowhere else for you to go. You're not gonna be head of agriculture. They're gonna pick a white man in front of a pear patch or a strawberry patch for that. They're not gonna pick you like that. I don't see that happening. If it does, I don't even see you lasting very long. You know, white supremacy has a very good way of just making you very uncomfortable. So uncomfortable that you just get the heck on. Well, we tried to bring her here and work with her, and they made her miserable the whole time. But if you don't have, see, the thing that Fudge needs is a bunch of black farmers. That's what we used to do. Oh, we were better farmers than everybody because we grew up. We were slaves on the plantation, and they took it away from us. They took everything away from us. Remember Sherrod, right? Ta-Nehisi Coates interviewed her. Remember the racism that drove us away from our farms. Remember the article I showed you. You don't understand, Fudge, that if you don't have black farmers, ADOS farmers especially, if you don't have those people in place, you don't have the people that you need to make sure you get the job. I said it before, and I'll end on this note, and I'll say it again. We either rise together or fall together. You can make the choice, but it ain't going to happen no other way. It's only ADOS, and we only do it collectively, or we don't do it at all. Anything else is a recipe for failure. I don't care how you want to put it. So anyway, fam, I want to hear what y'all got to say. I want to hear everything that you all, what do you think about the appointments? What do you think about how we move forward, how we build? I want to hear all of it. Just give me a few minutes as usual to set up the phones. The phone number flashes up in between time, and we will have the conversation. Just give me a little while to set it up, fam. All right? right, fam, we are back. We are back. I apologize to those of you who were two-stepping to the song. You got the feeling in you. You're just moving around. I apologize to you. But I just want to get to as many people I can get to, so I wanted to come on back real quick. So I apologize for that. I know you was in mid-stride. You was in mid-dip. I'm sorry. Anyway, so let's make sure, let's get started. Let's go to the calls. Let me make sure we set up. All right. Make sure we set up, fam. Let's go to it. I'm going to go to the first call of the night. I'm going to go to 608. 608, what is your name? Where you calling from? And what's on your mind?
Hi, Yvette. Wow, I can't believe I got through.
All right.
First of all, I just want to say that I love your show.
Thank you.
I don't agree with everything you have to
That's
say,
fine.
but you provide a wonderful service to our community.
Thank
and I just want to say bravo.
Thank you.
I'm from Wisconsin.
Okay.
And I am a professor at a university.
Okay.
And I have been watching with interest some of the appointments Biden has made and the people, and I've been looking at their credentials. And one of the things that I notice, and it is a repeat of the pattern that you see in academia, and that is you have whites and you have immigrants being placed in full-time and tenured positions, and then ADOS and other people or the other undesirable people of color, they tend to fall into the adjunct role. Okay. And so what you're seeing with the Biden administration, with the placements of many of the whites and the immigrants, it's what I see all the time in academia. And then the second thing that I just wanted to say is that I think the Biden administration should be really, really careful, because the all-female communication team that he put in place, that was a faulty decision, I would say, because they didn't consider their target voter. The people who they really need to reach out to and communicate with an effective message are black men or ADOS men and Latino men. If more black men, right now, about 18% of black males, they are voting with the Republicans. The next election cycle, if it gets close to 25%, the Democrats are done in terms of carrying the presidential election. They just cannot afford to keep losing black males. And in my opinion, black males are the pivotal voting bloc. And no one likes to mention that. They like to talk about white feminist females, but it's the black males who the Democratic Party really should be nervous about. And that's all I have to say. And keep doing what you're doing. And I just love your show.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And but what we get is punished, fam. We don't, black men don't get, like, if when black men go and vote for Trump or don't vote at all, the reaction is to demonize black men, as opposed to go and say, as opposed to go and say, hey, how are we not meeting your expectation? Right. And I just think that's a problem. And and because of that, black men have every reason to say, we did all of this. We did more than white men and all these other groups and Latino men. And we talk about just men and other, and we voted for you more, but your reaction to that was still to demonize us and say what's wrong with us and pathologize us. I don't see how in the future that Democrats don't lose even more black men. I don't see how. So Thanks, fam. I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate it. I don't see how that doesn't happen. And you know, I've seen a lot of shows that talk about the kind of machismo in the quote unquote Latino community. And I don't know if you're going to necessarily speak to them through women. There are other issues there that, you know, have been talked about recently in other articles. It's not me. So I think the caller, you know, may very well have a point. I'm going now to 347. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Vet. My name is CJ, calling from Staten Island, New York. And, I mean, I just want to pose something. It's a crazy idea, but it might be so crazy that it could work.
Okay.
If black Americans legitimately give up on the Democrat Party for a season just to get their attention, would it have any greater effect than pockets of ADOS around the country who, you know, are saying the right thing, thinking the right thing, doing the right thing, voting down ballot, trying to make a point, but all of black America is not getting on board with this?
Mm.
If all of black America just said, Democrats, we had enough of y'all. Y'all had us for 100 years, and we got nothing to show for it. Because every cause that comes up gets put to the front burner. Decade after decade, black Americans are put to the, your LGBT, your DACA, the immigrants, everything like that. They get what they need, what they desire, what they petition for, and what do we get? Next time.
Yeah. Just hold your mule. Well, that's kind of what I was trying to kind of do, or at least begin with down ballot. Like, we can't even get people to vote to, like, just leave the top of the ticket blank. I didn't even ask, like, we didn't even ask, and we had enough people, and I think they're downplaying how much that happened. But the point of the matter is, you know, we couldn't even get like a number of people. Like, I can't tell you how many people like, well, you know, got up to the voting booth and I lost my nerve. What kind of nerve you got? If we can't get you, like, my whole, before we even get to whether you're right or wrong, or we have had a discussion, if you can't get people to just say, hey, Biden and Trump, throw them both in the trash, like, I don't know how you can get people to go any further than that. That's the only thing we said. We said, hey, go vote for your ballot initiatives, go vote for your judges, go vote for your local state makers, lawmakers, go vote for your auto. But the top of the ticket, either if you can write ADOS and not have your vote, discard it, do it. If not, just leave it blank. And people still, because of the propaganda that is out there, they still were like, nah. Too many of them. You know what I'm saying? Because the Democrats don't fear you because you just come back to them every time.
I truly thought when Biden said, if you don't know the difference between me and Trump, you ain't black, I thought he lost the black vote. But unfortunately, he did not.
Yeah, because people said Trump is a boogeyman. So you just got to do anything. Oh, y'all can't let Trump get out. You know we can. Oh, Lord have mercy. Lord. Oh, no. I'm not. This man is one of the architects of mass incarceration. And so, yes, we have Bill Barr. We have Barr over there who wrote the manual. I expect that from him, right? This is the person that we vote for, though. This Democratic Party. This is what we have voted for. And the idea that we elected a president who was one of the architects of mass incarceration and celebrated it is almost a sickness to me in terms of how I feel. Thank you, fam. I can't hear you if you're talking, but I appreciate you. And thank you so much for calling in. I'm going to go to my next caller. I'm going to go to 850. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Thank you for taking my call, Sister Vet. My name is Kazon J. Johnson. I'm here in Pensacola, Florida. I've called in, a few times before.
Okay.
I always tell you I'm down here in Cotton Land with King Cotton at.
Mm-hmm.
I'm originally from New Jersey. I finished high school in Troy, a little town called Troy, Alabama, where John Lewis is from.
Okay.
And I've been listening for a hot minute. Over the last couple of weeks, I was trying to call and get in because you've hit so many important subjects. One of the things that I'm coming to realize that we're dealing with, and I think there's two different types of, it's the uppity Negro and the laughing Negro. They're not really taking things as serious as we kind of want them to be, especially the more educated one. For an example, I know a brother. He was on CNN. He's from Alabama. That's where his folks is from. And we were having a discussion about the lady that's over the educational department out in Texas.
Okay.
And how they were trying to change the word from slaves to work immigrants. And he jumped in and he said, yeah, I was up there with her, when we did that CNN thing and whatnot, and it's time for a change. And I said to the brother, and I want to keep from calling his name, but I said to the brother, when I moved from New Jersey down to Alabama, my parents them had a trailer out there in the country on your grandmother's land. I know your grandmother and your grandfather. I just can't those are his grandparents. And even I know what they taught me, being a young man coming from New Jersey down to Alabama, and just explaining to me how I was supposed to kind of carry myself. So anyway, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And I classified, he didn't like it. I classified him as the uppity Negro because he knows better. Those are his grandparents out there on that farm, raising them hogs and them chickens, and his grandmother throwing that axe, chopping that wood and stuff, and sharing those stories of her grandmother. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Our people were slaves in this nation. And I just can't understand for the life of me where in the world our people are not coming into agreement on that one particular subject with you and Tone. I just can't wrap my head around.
Well, you know what it is. Let me say one thing, family. I'm gonna let you finish. And this is something that I am kind of working through, because I believe that you have to work through this with ADOS. You have to, whether they admit it or not. What we're dealing with are a lot of people who are happy that they can wear Oxford shoes, and now I have a button down, and I don't have to, I have a nice little white collar, and then I have a blazer, and this blazer costs me good money. And there's nothing wrong with having nice things. I'm not saying that. Please don't take it that way. But what I'm saying is, people are using the things that they have as a way to distance them from their past and their lineage because they're ashamed of it. So you want to kind of be what Antonio calls a chocolate-covered white person. And that's not our lineage. But here's the thing. We don't have anything to be ashamed of in terms of like cutting wood with axes and the poverty. America has a lot of shame, especially white America. There should be a lot of shame there. The people who should walk with their heads bowed about what their ancestors did and what they were are white people. Those are not us. And I don't think we understand that there is no shame. And listen, I have said this before, but I'll say it again. When you look at the freedom struggles around the world, look at how many of them say they based their freedom struggle on what happened here and how ADOS fought here. We are the beacon of the whole world in terms of how to fight oppression. Everybody looks to us and says, like, I'm fired up. See what happened around the world. Whether you're talking about London, whether you're talking about Paris, whether you're talking about Nigeria. When we set everything off, because rest in peace, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and everything that happened, and Ahmaud Arbery and all of that, when we set it off, everybody else was inspired by us. We are the light that set everything off. How does the light get embarrassed by anything? How? True.
I'm going to speed this up real quick, Sister Vet, and I'm going to get out the way. Listen, I go back to an interview that Laura Bush, George Bush's wife, back when Katrina hit. She was in Shreveport, Louisiana. They had caught her on a live, they were filming her live right there at the airport, explaining her part on the Katrina. And that lady gave some history. That lady said, those people have always been placed in places where, here in this nation, where if something was going to happen, it's going to happen to them first before it gets to the white. Sister Vet, her staff that was with her, they didn't have enough time to stop her because she was emotional about what she had bear witness to of our people stuck down in that fishbowl on them roofs, right?
Absolutely.
She was just so emotional, but when she was spilling out real United States of America history right there, faster than they could react. And I've been searching for it. I will find it, and I'll try to get it over to you. It's a very interesting, quick interview she did at an airport on that subject, and it's the historical facts that she was putting out concerning our people that always just stuck in my head. I'm gonna end with this.
Okay.
Look, write this name down. I want seriously, guys. I want you to write this name down. Dr. James Oliver Horton, PBS channel, History Channel. He's been on CNN. That is my blood uncle. And I am going to boast a little bit because my family, even though he went to the big college and became a historian and did a bunch of TV shows and different things and whatnot, I hold in my office our family history. He did his history. I was put upon me to do the family history. And yes, I have 123 obituaries. Anybody, tell them quick, put up a stack. And I'll shock you with where my people come from Zebulon, North Carolina. But I said all of that to say this. We have to really, really consider, like, getting in behind you guys a little bit more stronger and a little bit more hard. And the ones that are kind of, that light is coming on, where they're starting to kind of get it, and we got to arm them up to be able to combat in the conversation with the facts, the data, the history, and whatnot, to wipe that little smirk, because I can't stand that laughing Negro. He's the yup Negro. The sky is black, y'all. Sister Vet, you've been precious with your time. That's all I have.
No, I appreciate you, fam. I can't stand that laughing Negro either. I'm with you. We on the same page. That laughing Negro got to go. I'm gonna try to get to some calls and push it through. So I am going now to 614. 614. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, it's Alfie again from
Hey.
Columbus, Ohio, ADOS.
What's going
I have
on?
to give a shout out to them and represent. I love you to death. Thank you.
Thank you, fam.
But I wanted to share a topic with you that may helping up to what the last caller was talking about.
Okay.
I've been listening to this lady. Her name is Joy DeGruy. I think that's her name.
Yep, Joy DeGruy, I think it is.
She talks about post-traumatic slave syndrome. I want to get her book because she was showing some stuff that really, I swear to goodness, everything that lady talked about, I watch us do. I literally watch us do it, okay? And that laughing thing, that's that nervousness and that fear. I'm telling you, it's like a mental illness, literally, okay?
Yeah.
So we not dealing with this ain't going to be no easy thing because a lot of people don't realize it, but it's almost like Stockholm Syndrome. Like, you know, with Stockholm Syndrome, you favor a person who abused you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's sad, and that's why they scared to, like, stand up and fight and talk about things that they went through. I know I make my mom cry sometimes because I make her talk about stuff. She don't want to talk about it, but I have to force her to talk about it because we have to deal with this, okay? Because I'm sorry, I can't let my daughter's future go to the trash because you're scared. You know, and I'm looked at as the bad person because I tell her all the time. I said, we're in a situation because Biden and Obama and them decided to bail out banks instead of fight for you with these predatory loans. I shouldn't have to come back and help my mother. It should be the other way around. You know, but she don't want to look at that. I told her it's politics. Don't nobody want to talk about that. They love this Obama and
they get caught up. They get caught up.
About our cousins been in jail for 20 years. But I'm like, Biden put them in jail. So I don't want to hear it. Okay? Because until you learn that these policies and who you vote for is disrupting you, come on, man.
Well, I think, our people, we tend to get way too caught up in the politics of personality. I don't care about nobody's personality. And even in terms as far as personality goes, I don't think Biden got a whatever. But I don't, we have to stop getting caught up in that. I don't even think if you saw Biden on the street, half these people like, I like him. I think I like him. No, you wouldn't. If you saw him on the street, you wouldn't like him. You would be like, this is an old white man. Like, it just, what are the politics that this person is standing on? And then how do they advocate? Because let me tell you what Democrats are real good at doing. They're real good at throwing out a policy paper or something with an agenda and never talking about it. If you never talk about it and you never come to our communities and talk about, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, I stand on this. That means you're not going to do it because you don't want to do it, because you don't even want to talk about it, because you don't want to make many segments of white America mad. That's what that tells me. So I don't even care about what you just say you're going to do if you're not coming to my community and reiterating that and saying, no, I promise you, I'm going to do this. And so, when you have, and I think people will be like, oh, why'd you make your mother cry? Because she has to talk about this. We have to, you can't just hide that trauma. That trauma is part of a collective story. We all need that story. But I think parents have to understand that, what happened in America is why that money isn't flowing down. And sometimes what you allowed to happen in America, what you didn't fight, is why money doesn't flow down. It's supposed to be flowing down. And we don't have no inheritance flowing down. And that's a huge problem for us. And you have to understand that and own it. And even if you can't do anything about it, you have to own that I made a lot of political mistakes. Right? And maybe you didn't know no better or whatever, but you made political mistakes. And we all have to have a record.
I did too.
Yeah, we all do.
I did too. And I told her, I said, I didn't know no better either until I started, looking at certain things that didn't make sense. Like when I started looking at her budget and everything, I'm like, goodness, they just dogging you and you love them, and I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes, we do the best. We do the best we can, and sometimes we're never gonna understand. Yeah. The only thing we gotta do is, the only thing that we have to do is move in the direction of the politics that we need with the people who are with us and on board with us. Right. That's what we can do. We will advocate and try to plant seeds, but at the point where we can't do it, like we don't need everybody. We need a tipping point. We don't need everybody. So let's move forward collectively with the people that we have on board and build and grow with that. I thank you for calling in, fam. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. I think a lot of people are going through that. A lot of people are going through that with their families right now. We heard that on the show the last time. This is a big deal. I am going to what day are we on? I'm going to 256. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, it's the political guy, Trey Flay. How you doing, Yvette?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing good. I just want to say, how can we hold somebody accountable when we didn't have a collective ask? And I'm not saying us as in we as in ADOS, but the majority of black people that voted for Biden, they really didn't have an ask for him to give. So it's like,
well, get Trump out.
You're going to hold him accountable. But
the ask was get Trump out of office. That was the ask.
Exactly. That's the ask. So every time he comes around, he's going to say, well, at least I ain't Trump. That's going to be the 2024 slogan. If he makes it to 2024,
Ooh.
At least I ain't Trump. Because that's the only thing that he promised not to be. And it's like he's being that person anyway, except he's just picking a colorful cabinet.
Paint the walls. Give me colorful drapes and what else? I'm sorry. Go on. I'm sorry.
Right, like Martin's apartment. Just color everywhere. With no meaning and no substance.
For no reason, child. Yeah, but go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's just crazy. Like, no one's going to hold him. The only people holding him accountable is us. I was listening to you on Clubhouse earlier today, and it's like everyone is dancing around what we need, which is reparations, and they're trying to put it on, this department, that department. These picks are important for what they are, but we still, at the end of the day, need reparations. So, I just thank you for doing what you do everywhere you go, being the same person, and I let somebody else get on the line.
Appreciate it, fam. Appreciate it. And I think one of the other things that happens and that we're going to have to kind of dig out and root out is this kind of one of the things that that I keep hearing from people is this kind of adherence, for lack of a better word, to a kind of, I think the best way to describe it is a kind of accommodationist politics, right? So, well, we can still get this if we do this, and we can get small things. Yeah, but I don't think enough people understand that what we need is a transformative politics. We don't need just a little bit. Even MLK said that, like, this kind of accommodationist politics, where we just kind of piecemeal our way through, isn't good enough. And so we have to kind of come on board, like what the caller said, with an agenda, and we have to all come on board with the fact that it has to be transformative. It can't be piecemeal. It can't be, well, some of us will get a little bit of money, a little bit of wealth, whatever. That's not going to lift the group. We're tethered to the bottom. And so you have to have a kind of reshaping and reshifting of the hierarchy that already exists in order to have us kind of be removed from that tether and have a place up here on that hierarchy, which is what we deserved and what we've been robbed of. You have to keep helping people understand that we are a plundered group. We are a plundered group, robbed of everything. Our labor, our intellectual property, ownership, everything you can imagine we've been robbed of. And so reparations is not some kind of intellectual thing. It is actually a debt. And that's how we need to talk about it. So I'm going to my next call. I'm going to 917. 917, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Brooklyn.
Oh, here we go again. Saggy Socks. What's up? What's up, Divine?
What's up, family?
Feeling pretty good. How about you?
This show was vital. Say it again?
I said feeling pretty good. How about you?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling highly blessed, and this movement is the reason why. I mean, this show came right on time. Like you said, who signs the contract and then try to negotiate the terms after the ink dries? It don't make no kind of sense.
Dave Chappelle? But no, I'm sorry. I'm playing. Bad joke. Go on.
You know you ain't right.
I'm not.
But, you ain't right, but you are right. And so, I mean, this concept of just getting Trump out, and then, I mean, Trump really isn't out yet, but for it to look like Trump is out, once this thing gets, the seal of approval, if that's what you ask for, then you can't be mad when that's what you get. And, it's this concept of these people that have, bent over backwards to try to appease white folks and get this proximity to whiteness, and then getting a wake-up call that you ain't white. And not only you're not white, but what Biden is doing, with the help of Obama, more than likely, you finding out that you aren't the other spicy white folks as well, the other variations of whiteness.
Oh.
And so, once again, we get, not we know what the strategy we did, but as black people, ADOS, those that are not aware of the movement just yet, they're being locked out once again, even though they, walk lockstep with these Democrats. They're being left behind again. And so when you came out and said, it's funny that you said that today, because I was just speaking with a friend of mine, and we were going back and forth about why the ADOS movement is necessary. And I said the same thing. Like, if you ever wondered or ever wanted to be a part of the civil rights movement, or you wanted to know what it was like since you weren't alive at that time, this is it, and the time is now.
This is it.
Like, the ADOS movement is the premier organization pushing for reparations. It's the premier organization pushing for civil rights, and it's the premier organization and the only organization that is standing in the gap for the descendants of those ancestors that survived the Holocaust known as slavery in this country. And,
absolutely.
And so, when you look at it and you say, well, why is it so divisive, or all the other talking points that they have about ADOS, what I believe they fail to realize is that when the civil rights movements were taking place, none of them were popular. None of them had the approval of white folks. None of them had the consensus of the country that you can go forward and we won't talk bad against, we won't slander you. Whenever there has been a movement in this country to collectively uplift the lives of ADOS,
it has faced vehement opposition.
Absolutely.
So why would ADOS in present time be any different?
And you gotta, and fam, what you're saying really is something that everybody has to understand in this sense. You just gotta expect it. You can't I'm one thing I grow impatient with is people who keep saying, well, it's hard. It's hard. And I understand that. That's why you gotta take it in bits and pieces. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. You gotta pace yourself. You can't do everything. I understand that. But like, it's gonna be hard. When has it not been hard for us? That's just the journey that we're on. We're just a continuation of that. You live usually less than 100 years or less. Don't worry. You'll be asleep very soon enough. But like, this is your part of this journey. Our whole history has been hard. Don't ask us why it's hard. Ask us, what can I do?
Exactly. I mean, I know most of us, if we've seen the movie, we've joked about it once or twice with a friend, but it's like Oprah's character in Color Purple. Like, all our life we had to fight.
And we should. Hold on, fam. Hold on. Hold your thought right there. She said, all my life I had to fight. If all your life you had to fight, shouldn't you know how to fight? Like, we've been fighting this whole time here, and we act like we don't know what to do. We can't guard our face. We can't stay on a square. We can't move fast. We act like we slow. If all your life you had to fight, if all your time, your ancestors and your history in this country is having to fight, why don't you know how to fight? Don't you know that fight is what you're going to have to do?
Listen, you got idiots out here looking like Nate Robinson. we don't have no time for that. We ain't got no time for that. If all your life we had to fight and your life is still living, then you got more life to fight.
Yeah.
And so, it just don't make no sense any other way. And so, I just want to say, because I've seen a lot of discouragement in the chat, and even when talking to some people that are down with the movement, in the chapter here in New York City and other places, other people that I talk to that I know, a lot of times, because the situation is so dire, because they see the disrespect that is constantly coming our way from the Democratic Party and from the political people in power now, a lot of us get discouraged. And, I said this before on the show, and I'll say it again. We have to make sure that we temper our expectations. We coming. We building. We know what we doing. We got a whole bunch of people that are dedicated across this nation in this ADOS movement that are standing on our square. But we have to be careful not to overestimate what we can do in the short term and underestimate what we will do in the long term.
Yeah,
like it gets real tricky.
And let me just say, listen though, fam. Listen though, one of the things we gotta understand too is that you don't know what you don't know. And so you don't know, we can all make assessments, and we do. But you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know when it's gonna happen. We could pop and hit that tipping point, and that thing could happen sooner rather than later. Or it could be later. You don't know. There's how this moves and how it grows. What we're in charge of though is the work we put into it. That's what we're in charge of. That's what we have to do. And let me tell you, the cheat code to being able to fight is to love to fight. You're on the right side of history. You're on the right side of justice. Imagine being on the other side and having to fight for the wrong stuff all the time and having to just be evil, for lack of a better word. Like, you're on the right side of this. The fact that you're born into this moment means you're built for it. Just fight. And if you don't know how to fight, we can teach you, and you got ancestors that can teach you. That's the beauty of not being first. You're not first. So there are a whole bunch of people that came before us that taught us how to fight. Like, we got a lot to pull from. It's not like that. We got a lot to pull from in this century, so we can't just pull from just them, because that's a different era. But there are some things that we can pull. There are some things that a lot of things that we have to create. There are new fighting ways we do things, and new positions, and new ways to grip somebody and put them to sleep. All kinds of stuff we can figure out. Oh, it's a glorious time. Why is everybody so upset and disappointed about having to fight? You built for it. Just know it. Just believe it and move on.
Listen, like you said, we built for the fight, and I'll end on this. Excuse me. So I'd rather fall fighting for the right cause than still be standing and winning fighting for the wrong cause. And so with our lineage, what we got to understand is, and I'll close with this.
Okay.
By some white people we were stole, and by other Africans we were sold. But this ADOS lineage story and justice claim is the greatest story never fully told. And I'll end on that. Be Be encouraged, family, because we got this.
Absolutely. Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. You should wake up. You should wake up in the morning wanting to fight. This the good fight. You on the right side of everything. Oh, you on the right side of everything. You should wake up encouraged. How you wake up upset when you on the right side of everything? You on the right side of justice and everything good in the world. How you wake up upset about that? You the beacon of light for other people around the world who are trying to fight for their justice and trying to fight for their freedom. You are the standard bearer, and you upset, and you what? How? I don't understand it. Anyway, I'm going to my next call. 510-510. What's your name? Where you calling from? And what is on your mind? Hold on a second. There we go. 510. You coming up?
How you doing, Yvette?
Pretty good.
Harold calling from Chicago. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
You too. Hope you had a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving.
I did. Wifey nailed her part of the dinner, and I nailed my part of the dinner, and it was a smorgasbord of tastiness. Let me tell you.
I believe.
I don't know if you watched 60 Minutes, but last night Anderson Cooper interviewed the descendants of the last slave ship that arrived in Alabama in 1860. It was a fabulous segment in terms of the historical information that was shared, and it was a travesty at the same time. So let me explain that. The descendants were taught by their ancestors their ancestors' stories. They knew the name of their ancestors. They knew where they came from. In West Africa, they knew when they arrived. In fact, explorers even found remains of the ship. And the state of Alabama has created $1 million to determine if the ship can be brought up from the Mobile River. Fascinating story.
Yes,
Anderson's talking to the descendants, and they are, relaying stories and talking about how proud their ancestors were and how this community was created, and then it became a travesty. So what do I mean by that? So the section, and this place is called Africa Town, outside of Mobile, I believe. The state decided to put a highway through this community. The state decided to surround this community with factories, chemical factories. Slowly but surely, the vibrant, thriving black community died off. Now, the ship came to Alabama in 1860. The transatlantic slave trade was made illegal in the United States in either 1808 or 1812, and I may be off on my dates, but so this ship, this voyage, was mad illegal, and the man who sanctioned it and paid for it created a timber industry off of the backs of these enslaved Africans. All of the descendants knew that story, and so when Anderson Cooper asked them what they wanted, the elder, this woman, got up and said, I don't want anything. I just want an acknowledgement of what was wrong. Yvette, I had a great holiday. I had a great birthday on Saturday. You know, I was screaming and cursing at that TV like I was a madman. And your word, and then I got quiet for a second, and your words came to me like out of the blue, like it was like I was Moses listening to God. The only thing worse than no answer is the wrong answer.
Oh, and I said that.
That woman's response to Anderson was so terrible because the segment laid the case, not a correlation, but a straight causation about how this man's family, the mayor's family in Alabama, is sitting on an industry worth about $40 million. And these people, the descendants of Africans that created that monetary value for that family, are broke. And I could not believe it. And but here's what it made me do.
What it made you do?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that's the same thing that Clyburn said. When Stephanopoulos asked him, like, you know, Clyburn, you did this in South Carolina, you were instrumental to Biden and getting the black, what do you want? And he said, I just want to live in a decent country or whatever that, it's the same thing. That generation, it's the same thing with them. There is this white gaze that they kind of, it's almost like they perform for, and it's also because I don't think they know enough to know, like, what you need and what your descendants need in order to be okay. If you know what's happened to you, you should know what you need. If we see that segment and you see the millions of dollars, How are you not able to quantify that? But I'm gonna let you go. You go ahead, fam. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. Because you're exactly right. So what that segment made me do is I got up at like 4 o'clock this morning, transcribed several pages from the book The Half Has Never Been Told, because my kids go to a school called Andrew Jackson Language Academy here in Chicago.
Okay.
And I am spearheading the effort to change the name of that school based on all of the atrocities and tragedies that Andrew Jackson is himself responsible for. And so tonight was our first meeting. When I tell you I had my talking points, I had my proof, I had my data, I shut down every white response to an objection to this name change that came up. I had a swag that was spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental. I could not be stopped tonight. So this thing's moving forward. In the grand scheme of things, this is not reparations, but it'll mean a lot to me. It'll mean a lot to my twins to have that man's horrible name removed from this school. I want to thank you, because without these book club meetings and these books we're reading, I wouldn't have this information. And I honestly wouldn't have this black swagger that I have that I need to kind of get down in this society.
I love it, fam. I love it. And I think what you're pointing to too, whether you even know it or not, is that you're showing what to do with that frustration. There's always something you can do when you see this stuff and you say, oh my God, instead of making the case for reparations, she said, we just want you to say you did something wrong. And that's part of the problem that we have with that generation. But you can't focus on them because we have new generations coming. And what you're talking about is how you build new generations. What do I have to do to make sure that my kids are not this woman? And I'm not saying nothing negative about her. She just don't know, and she's came up in a way, right, in a different time. So what do I have to, those of you all who have kids, right? Those of you all who have kids. I don't have kids. I'm not a mother. I'm the mother of a movement, but I'm not a mother of children. Those of you who have kids, you have to think about what you have to feed into them to be the kind of brilliant soldiers that ADOS will need long after you're gone. And that's what you have to kind of do to your frustration. And whether you volunteer with kids, even if you don't have them, like, that has to be it. And so thank you, caller. I appreciate that, because that shows you that there's always something you can do with whatever kind of frustration that you experience, as opposed to just letting that get in the way of what you're doing, right? As opposed to just making you frustrated and and I don't want to do nothing no more because these people don't know. No. You have to say, no, there's always something you can do.
No, thank you, Yvette, because without you, this isn't possible. I'm not who I am currently, and I like consideration. So, peace to the Breaking-Brown family. Please be safe and take care.
Absolutely.
Happy holidays. And I know it's frustrating, y'all, but let's keep doing what we can do, and let's keep moving forward. Everybody have a good night.
Absolutely, fam. Thank you so much for calling in. I think that's an inspirational story. Like, you don't have to just stop and just be mad at her. Understand that she came around during a time where, it was a different time, and we're moving out of that time, and we're going to be the driver. She's older. She's not going to be the driver of politics for us, right? She's not going to drive this political movement. She's not going to do that. That's on us. And so when we listen to her, we have to learn from her mistakes, and her wanting nothing is a mistake, and we have to learn from that and learn never to be that. We honor what she was, and we honor her contribution, we honor her suffering, but politically we will never be that. And sometimes you have to see that to understand why we can't be that. And that's a gift. Nothing to be upset about. That's a gift. So anyway, I'm going to 720. I'm coming to you. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, my name is Joseph. I'm calling from Riverview, Florida.
Hey, Joseph.
Hi, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I am doing really good. I want to thank you and Tone for the education you've given us. Now, I'm the guy that was at the first conference there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And hardcore not believing in that divine thing. But my niece and nephew got a hold of me. And so my niece, my nephew, my brother, we got 5 members now that are in the Breaking Brown book club.
Good.
Oh yeah, my brother, my niece, my nephew, now that they understand what's at stake.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't hold them.
Can't hold them back.
Yeah, my brother said, dude, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying you can't hold them back. Now they running.
Yeah, they done run me over to where I had to call for help because I said, well, we can all get rich and well together. And when they, looked at some of the clips that I sent of Tone Talks and Breaking Brown, and they started looking into it, and I mean, man, they are all, they should be in here tonight, but like, that's the first thing. Get your family. If you can start getting members of your family, because now the nieces and nephews, they're in their 40s and they have children.
Okay.
And so their children in their 20s and stuff, and they understand. I mean, like I said, you can't stop them. I mean, they just get out the way,
You can't stop. That's what's unstoppable. You can't stop them.
Stick at them because you don't know when or how it's going to come to them, and when it comes, look out.
And sometimes it comes to people in flashes. Yeah, sometimes it comes to people with their. Thank you, fam. I appreciate you calling in. I'm gonna let you go so I can get some more people in. But I appreciate you because appreciate it, fam. I think sometimes it comes to people in flashes too. Like sometimes we be talking and wondering why you ain't getting it. This ain't hard. What's wrong with you? Your mama dropped you as a baby. But no, don't do that. Like what happens sometimes is propaganda is a hell of a drug, and sometimes people just need. It comes to them. People come. Sometimes it comes to people in flashes. Like it just hits them. Sometimes it's a more gradual. Like, well, what about this? And they'll come to you with questions. But like, don't get upset or kind of annoyed. Just understand that like all you can do is the work. All we can do is the work. Have the conversations, do the advocacy, put our teams together. That's what we do. That's the work. And we just got to do our best to win these arguments. So when we are in these spaces and having these conversations, we know, like he said, the books, we know the data. We can win these arguments in these spaces and put people in a position where they have to like, yeah, you're right. There is no other answer. This is it. This is all. So I'm going now to 214. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, Deb. This is Lillian from Louisiana. How you doing?
Pretty good, Lillian. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine. Hey, I'm going to throw this out here. I've been thinking about it. Ending birthright citizenship is a pathway for us to get our tangible lineage reparation. They stole the 14th Amendment, and as you know, all these hundreds of years been stealing. I think if you end birthright citizenship, that will free up the money to pay ADOS that built this country. And that's it. I just thought I'd throw it out. One more thing. I'm a down ballot voter.
Okay.
And when I went to vote, a big sign came up and said, do you realize that you didn't vote for the president or vice president? You did just push next. I pushed next and kept rolling.
Yeah, they're trying to pressure you.
It was probably more than 100,000 or 200,000 people that down balloted because they keep talking about it, and it's interesting. But I'd like to see the data on that.
Yeah, I've been having a hard time with that too. I've been having a hard time finding I saw one article that talked about how many there were, but I think it was only in one area. I haven't seen a good synopsis. If anybody's seen it, please send it to me at editor@breakingbrown.com about how much it was. And if you're not openly putting it out there, I have to kind of wonder why.
Yeah, well, I'm openly putting it out there because it is no reason why.
Yeah.
You see what's going on. If you ain't black, Biden's picks are either brown, white, colored, Asian. They're all into this white supremacy thing. It's just like having a Klan rally. I don't see any black faces, prominent black faces. And I don't know what's going on with them uppity Negroes and CDC, but HR 40 needs to be revised for tangible lineage reparations, and I'm out.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate that. And I think part of the problem with what she said about birthright citizenship is that we have been so bullied as a group that we can't even have an immigration conversation. Democrats have so kind of maligned us and beat us up that we can't even say, let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation about what kind of immigration levels we want and who competes against ADOS and how that competition, shows itself in the labor market. They have told us that having any conversation about immigration is xenophobic and I don't know how we racist, but racist. And so they have kind of censored us. And they have kind of, put us in a position where we're not even allowed to speak on what's detrimental to us, especially when you talk about unskilled labor. And even when you talk about tech, we're not even allowed to have that conversation. We're kind of muzzled. And I don't think you can really have a dialogue. You certainly can't have a politics if you're not driving the politics and you're not driving the political conversation. And that's where we are. We're kind of just attaching ourselves to the political direction of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, right? And as opposed to and Biden in this case, as opposed to self-determination. So in order to have self-determination as a group, we have to be able to have our own conversation, and regardless of what anybody else says. And I wonder how many of us, I know ADOS, we do, but how many of us are willing to, that's what freedom looks like. Freedom is freedom of thought before you have freedom of action. And we have to demand a freedom to self-determine our own political way forward. If we don't do that, we might as well let everything go. I'm going to go to my next call. This might be my last call. 404, what's your name? Where you calling from? And what's on your mind?
Yvette.
What's going on, fam? What's up with you?
Nothing much, man. You know what? The backbone of the Democratic Party, I guess near attending can't tell. I'm listening to your show and everything, and from what I'm seeing here, we got a situation to whereas, we really don't know how important these jobs are in terms of how they're going to attack us, and I'm talking about ADOS specifically.
Okay.
I'm of the mindset that from where I'm standing, that it's an excuse when I look at where we are employed the most in terms of government. I'm afraid that we're going to start seeing a trend to whereas they'll have excuses to remove us from certain jobs. The things that Donald Trump has already done in place before that, as far as the judges go, that people talk about. But what Biden and Harris is doing, they're taking control of a narrative through these appointments. And I know locally here, when we had a politician run for mayor, he surrounded himself, seemingly with good women, promoted to good positions. It wasn't the women that I didn't trust. I just knew that the leader who appointed them was about to do something really shady. That was my suspicion. That was my first suspicion. Not necessarily Tanner's appointment, but it kind of tells me that Biden is about to get into something a little different and creating a cloak or something around him to cover up what he's really about to do politically that we just can't see right now.
Well, I think it's different. You can do a lot of bad stuff coming, but it all comes when you talk about communications out of the mouths of women, right? So in terms of if you want to cloak something, you do it, and all these women kind of came forward, and we got people of color, we got Jean-Pierre, it comes through that, and because of how people feel about women or whatever the case may be, it doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with women or nothing like that. I just think that it's kind of strange that's happening, and everybody's silent about certain things. And I saw that episode that the brother was talking about on 60 Minutes. I actually saw that, and I was brokenhearted because I had been down to Mobile, not too far from there. And when she didn't say anything, when it's almost as if when Anderson Cooper asked her that, it was as if we have a certain type of fear to tell the truth about our story ourselves.
Oh, yes.
That thing that the sister talked about, Joy DeGruy, with the somewhat, what's that, Stockholm Syndrome?
Yeah,
it is kind of similar to that
syndrome,
in terms of our unwillingness to fight and rally around ADOS.
Yeah, I agree, and I think ADOS is the thing that is the movement that breaks us out of that. You know, we don't have to have everybody get broken out of it, but we have to have enough of us to move. And I think this I don't think I know. Like this is the movement that breaks us out of that pattern. We have and ever since King, you know, what happened with King, it wasn't just King's assassination. People don't necessarily remember. There were a lot of people murdered during that time. And so what we've had is a lot of people kind of walk in fear after that. Like we don't want to die. Well, I think the question is not whether or not you want to die, it's how you want to live. What's the point of wanting to live in this situation and not fight for your people? You know, it's not a fact we all gonna die at some point. I mean, and I'm not trying to encourage anybody to, and I don't like I want to just say this, I don't condone any kind of violence, but I'm just saying in terms of even when you talk whether you talk literally or figuratively, the whole point is like, what hill are you going to sacrifice on? Like, who are you going to sacrifice for? You don't get to determine what happens. You're born into something, and you just kind of plopped here, and what you do with that is the story of your life. That's just what it is. I didn't make it. That's just what it is.
Yeah. That rise together, fall together is a very real concept that we really need to understand and embrace. You know, that whole thing about being the backbone of the Democratic movement. It for me, it was Dr. King being incarcerated at the Birmingham jail and going from Republican to Democrat, bailing them out. The strides that we still have with mass incarceration today.
Absolutely.
Couple that with Dr. King's incarceration back to slavery. It's still that narrative. We're the bridge that takes them over at the end. And as we see, once they get elected, you know, here come the news reports. Biden should be appreciating white males. The exact polar opposite. All of a sudden, people are saying that ADOS was right with what they was talking about. All of a sudden, the media is changing the coverage now that they've got what they've wanted out of our community again. And so what that means is that we have to get on one accord. And I'm talking about black men and black women. Mm-hmm. We got to not separate. And I'm talking about Boulay brothers and working class brothers.
Yeah, got to get it together.
We got to get on one accord. To your point, rising together and falling together.
Absolutely, I agree, fam. I appreciate you calling in, but I absolutely agree. I think we got to, and I think part of getting on one accord is understanding that, like, this is the only chord. You ever play a bunch of chords or a bunch of notes and only one of them make a beautiful sound? No, this is music. All the other stuff is just noise. So I think, when you really talk about it and everybody really sees what's happening with Biden or whatever, it becomes apparent that this is where the music is. This is where the movement happens. It's not happening anywhere else. And it's not going to happen anywhere else. It's not destined to happen anywhere else but here. And the movement work is our work, and that's glorious work to do. To continue the fight of the ancestors is a glorious work. And I think that's how we should view it, as opposed to, getting too frustrated. The frustration is stress, and it creates all kind of toxins in your body. You don't want that in your life. And so I think that's what we should do. That is the last call, family. I apologize if you did not get through. That is the wave recently. The calls have been coming. So I apologize if you didn't get through. That is the last call of the night, fam. That is the last call of the night. I reiterate. But listen, please do not forget. I'll bring the date up next time. Please do not forget. And one of the callers brought up the book. So please do not forget. In January, late January, we will be reading The Half Has Never Been Told. The Half Has Never Been Told. We have a book club. We have a conversation, if you don't know, and we discuss it. This book, I think, will probably take 2 nights, so we'll probably do that Thursday and that Friday. For those of you, who don't know how we do it, if it was a shorter book, we would probably just do, one night. But we'll probably have to do 2 with this because it's kind of thick for those of you who have seen it. Please make sure you hit that like button. Please make sure that you share. Please make sure you hit that bell. Please make sure if you haven't hit that bell to get notifications and subscribe and all that. If you want to donate, donatebrown.com, $breakingbrown for the Cash App, patreon.com/ycarnell to donate. And we're not there yet, but we have, like I said, the chapter leaders onboarded to ADOS HQ. We have a couple more that we got to put on. And then as we roll out, we will roll out that to everybody at a time which will be announced. If you want to be a part of a team, though, please email me. And you think you have Yvette, I do this. I got the chops for this, bona fides and all that stuff. So whether it's outreach, media, policy, administration, training, please email me at editor@breakingbrown.com. Those of you who have already emailed me, I did get your emails. I just have not responded yet because I'm working on something real quick. But I did get them. And if you want to be a part of like this movement in that way, please email me and we will absolutely we're gonna get it done, people. It's gonna, whether we get it done hard or whether we get it done whatever, we're gonna get it done. So until next time, family, keep it easy breezy, take care of yourself and wear your mask and all that kind of stuff, and stay healthy and happy and stay in the fight. I will see you next time. Thanks, fam.